Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Going to give you guys a real quick Bitcoin update. As you can see, I now have my camera on. I got a nice green screen behind me. Wanted you guys to be able to see me. Be a little bit more personal, right? So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's take a look at our daily when it comes to Bitcoin here. So I'm going to zoom in. Had a decent drop for today. And I did tell you guys this morning, I'm expecting for this to be our low for the week right here around 62.5-ish area, 62.520. So I don't think that we're going to get below that. I do think that we're going to get either a nice consolidation range or a nice move back to the upside, a nice slow move back up. I don't really see any sort of sign that we're going to continue our move down for right now. Especially usually on bearish weeks, you expect for Friday to make the bottom of the week. So if you guys are long for the bottom, congratulations. You probably did catch the bottom for this week around 62.520. That will probably be our bottom, more than likely. There's a good 80% chance that that'll be our bottom. All right. So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look and see what is going on. So taking a look at the week, obviously, like I told you guys, I want to see us close back above 63,975. We close below that, it is going to give us more bearish sentiment. So again, like I warned you guys for the month of August, because we pumped at the beginning of the month, there's a good chance that we're going to get that move to the downside, to follow through to the downside, right? So there is that potential. Taking a look at the 12-hour, this right here is, if this actually closes green, this would be a possible, you could even do a long on this, stop below this wick down here and see where it takes you. I mean, you could basically ride the next 3 or 4 candles, for the next 2 days, and see if you can get that move back up to the upside. You never know. I wouldn't expect for this weekend to have a very expansive move just because this candle was very expansive today, as well as the previous day, even though we did close in a compression doji. But honestly, guys, it is possible, right? It is possible that we could get a move back to the upside for this weekend. And honestly, it is preferable at this point because if we can get back up above that 63,900-ish area, we have a chance of holding that weekly 200 MA, which is what we want to see, right? So I know that I don't usually like to see movement on the weekends, but this is one weekend where I wouldn't necessarily mind it, just so that we can close above that 200 on the weekly. Taking a look at the 10-hour, obviously this could be making some sort of swing low pattern, so just keep an eye on that. 8-hour as well, right? You kind of have, it's not really a tweezer bottom, unfortunately, but this would be technically possibly a swing low here as well. Taking a look at your 4-hour, now, there is a potential, guys, I did have this kind of measured out. There's a potential that we come down to like 62,780. I know we kind of front ran it the past 4-hour candle. We basically front ran it by about $11, so that could be it. But if this was a 786 retracement that is bullish, you would expect there to be an expansive move to the upside sooner rather than later. So maybe by the time that this daily candle closes, maybe we can start seeing some more action, hopefully to the upside. Let's see, taking a look at the 1-hour. So one thing I did see, and this is something that I was kind of keeping in mind here, is this does, to me, look like it could potentially be forming a diamond pattern, right? Let me see if I can kind of draw this out. So kind of going down, up. I'm sorry, I don't have a drawing pad, so this is horrible. But it could be some sort of a diamond. Just keep that in mind. Diamonds do reverse, basically they reverse price action, right? So you would be expecting, coming back up here, getting back, at least to about 63,400, 63,500 area if it is a diamond. That would be kind of a telltale sign that we could get, a move back to the upside. Taking a look at your 30-minute, obviously, again, like I said, I'm watching for that 786 retracement. We might have already gotten it. Actually, this should be kind of even lower, around 62,730. So definitely could have front ran it. You hit the 618, but I would expect it could potentially, get more of a move down to about 62,730-ish area. So just keep an eye on that. 15-minute, not too much different. You're going to want to see these moving averages get tighter. So as long as we consolidate, that's a good sign. 10-minute, the same thing. A 5-minute, you are very close by. You're kind of consolidating these moving averages. So at any given time, you could basically see that move back up to the upside. As far as levels go, guys, locally, I would say that I would watch for the 62.5 to be our low down here. If we lose that, look for 62.414 and then 62,109, almost 62 even, right? And then if you lose 62 even, you got to expect you're going to get down into 61,124 down here. And then to the upside, again, 63.5 would be a decent spot, but I'm going to be more so targeting 63.6 and 63.940. If you can get above 63.940, you can basically expect to possibly test weekly open again around 64.870 to Monday midnight open at 64.962. All right, guys, that being said, let's take a look at liquidity and see what that has to show us here. All right, so let me refresh this here. Maybe get over to the 4-hour first. All right, so taking a look at your 4-hour, you can see that we did make that nice strong wick to the downside. We found a lot of sensitivity there and started moving our way back up. That's a good sign. The problem is whether, or question is whether or not that low is going to hold. I said based off of timing, it probably will for right now. Next week we could potentially take out this triple bottom right here, hit about 62,000 even. But for right now, I am expecting for this to hold, at least for this weekly candle. 1 hour time frame we can switch over to. So 1 hour again, or sorry, go back to 4-hour here. Let me go to the 1 hour. 1 hour. All right. So finally, we got to the 1 hour. You can see that there is liquidity building to the upside, which is a really good sign. So your 100x is telling you, and again, we looked at this morning, but you can see that you're going to be wanting to target 63,351 first. And then if you can get past that, 63,600 area, which is what we saw on the, basically one of my resistance lines, 64,000 would be the next scenario, and then possibly all the way up even to 64.5, which would be the ideal situation, right? Getting back above that weekly 200 MA is going to be the prime thing I'm going to be looking for this weekend. Whether or not we're going to get any expensive moves or any continued move to the upside is a bigger question. But it is possible. Just keep an open mind when it comes to that. Taking a look at the 15-minute, nothing really to the downside as far as bridges are concerned. Yeah, I just have the 100x checked off. 50x doesn't show anything, so I'd really have to zoom in. Possibly you got this little bit right here on 62.6, so that's right below that 62.7-ish area that I was targeting as a 786 level for a retracement. You could get down there, get a bounce. I don't know if we're going to get down into this yellow area to take out this low, but like I said, my assumption currently is that we are at the bottom of the week right now, right here. So I don't think we're going to get past 62.5, at least for the time being. Maybe next week we could, but I'm expecting a slow grind up, at least for the remainder of the week until Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Let's take a real quick look at our order book through open market here. So taking a look at the order book, you can see that we do have some, basically some levels here around 62,300 to 62,275, some orders to possibly get us down here. This could be acting like support because of how, tight together these orders are. So not necessarily sure if we're going to get all the way down here. Keep in mind, guys, that on both sides, you have a lot of space with not that many big orders. So the market literally could go either way for right now. It could just kind of mess with traders, maybe kind of just chop out for the rest of the day. I'm not expecting too much. And then honestly, if we do chop out the rest of the day and we kind of don't get too much action, there is a potential that the following day is going to have action. So it's all going to depend on how the daily closes. If it does close more of a consolidation doji, then I would expect for the next day to be expansive, okay? And if not, the next day, it'd be on Sunday. So kind of what I'm expecting, obviously to the upside, you have 63,750, 63,800 area. We did talk about that. If you get above 63,350, you kind of have the 63,670, which is right around very close by 63,750. So it does kind of allude to the fact that we could possibly take some of that out to the upside if we can get that move back up, okay? Let's take a real quick look at the simple map, see what's going on there. All right, so let's see what levels we can identify through the simple map as it stands here. All right, so the simple map is showing us that we have some support around 62,640 to 62,670. Now, if you lose that, guys, you got to assume that you're going to roll through to about 62,430. You lose that, you go to about 62,220, and then you'd be basically testing about 62,000 even. So there are still some numbers within the 62K range that we can use as potential support. To the upside, you'd be looking at about 63,270 as your first spot of resistance. You get above that, you can basically kind of roll your way up to 63,720, it shows. So kind of right below that 63,300 level that I told you guys would possibly be a strong resistance point. You get above that, basically, you can kind of climb through majority of the 63K range all the way up to about 63,720. And then if you get above that, you basically roll all the way to about 64.3. So, one good thing about, the way that the liquidity looks to the upside is you can kind of roll through it. There's only about two different points that would be considered resistance, it looks like. And then if you get above those or past those, you basically can roll through the rest of the liquidity. Okay. Taking a look at your swing timeframes here, usually these are the same as the scalping timeframes. But once again, guys, 62, 640, 62, 670 would be, your first line of support. You lose that, you go to 62, 430, 62, 460-ish area. You lose that, you go to 62, 220, and then finally, 62,040 before you still continue your way to the downside. And then obviously to the upside, first area of resistance is 63,270. You get above that, you can crawl up to 63,720. And basically from there, you can just kind of roll through at least to 64,080 and just keep going to 64,300. All right, guys, that being said, that is what I have for you for the day. Those are going to be my levels. I am going to be watching as price action plays out. As usual, if you guys want to use Trading Different and you want to get some sort of a discount out of it, use my code Sean, tradingdifferent.com/code/Sean. You can get yourself 10% off of your entire order and get access to this amazing tool suite to be able to identify trend and where liquidity is located. That being said, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and I will talk to you all in the morning. Take care.